This is Early Oyster Garage, and I figured this video is the follow-up to the casting and reloading videos that I've done. In this case with the Lee Tumble Lube 124 grain 9mm with the liquid A-Locks lubricant on it. Let's see if you can see it. These guys have been drying for a day. See if there you go. You can see that kind of goldish caramel color is the A-Locks in the drive bands of this round. So these ones were getting loaded up. In my case, I am using an Accurate number 7. I am in no way suggesting a powder to use. There's a lot of different powders out there. This is just the one that I have chosen for what I'm shooting. I've gotten a good price on it, so that's another part of the reason, and it's worked for multiple different loads. I try to pick powders that work for, not just one load that I'm doing. I try to find data that matches multiple loads, and there's some good videos on that online as well too. So in this case, doing the Tumble Lube rounds, I've got it all set up here. I've got my my die all set, my seat and crimp die all set up. I've run a few through the press to make sure that everything is coming out where I want it. I got a few set aside here because I'm doing this one-handed. I also like to keep myself a factory round on hand to measure depth. I don't have a case length gauge. I need to get one for the 9mm. It's a lot easier than trying to follow this, or what I will often do is check it in the barrel of the gun I'm using. So in this case, what I did is I already got my powder measured out with my lead powder measurer, and I got that dialed in with my powder scale that came with the set. So, and I'm doing the starting load that I found on Accurate's website. So it's a 5.7 grain load for the 124 grain lead cast. So I'm going to start there because this is a new round to the gun that I'm using, and I'll work my way up from there. It's always good, especially with lead rounds, to work up your round, work up your shot. Work your way to the accurate round. Don't just, if it says in this case 5.7 to like 6.3, don't just dump 6.3 in there. You can get variances based on the hardness of your round, things like that. What I was using before is a 115 grain lead cast that I got at a gun show, and these ones are actually the Lubricize style. And I checked the Bernal hardness of these, which shot really well through the rifle I'm using, to what I was casting, and it looks to me to be the same. It may be off one or another. Ultimately decided not to water quench these because the hardness is right on. And I did the fingernail test that Fortune Cookie 45LC has some videos on, and it was like right on with those 115. So I'm going to start with that, start low. I'm going to work up 50 of them, and then I might bump the charge up a little bit so that I can test them against each other at the range, because I don't get to go out all that often. So, and then there I will know, based on my groupings and, what the leading possibility, hopefully no leading, but if I get some leading in there, I'll know where I need to go, whether I need to back it off, or, if I do the higher ones, if I need to back it off, or if I need to put it up a little higher. So what I will do when I get this guy set up is test rounds, kind of work my way to the depth that I like, and then I'll get my crimp set up. And sometimes, in this case, I got one that I went a little overkill on. You can see that one I'm going to have to pull, so I got it set aside. But using my caliper, these ones I got at Arbor Freight, they're not anything special, but they work. So I think this was this factory round was, the measurement was 1.10 on this factory that I've saved. Set that guy aside, and then I've measured that against the ones that I've been dropping. The tip is slightly smaller on these Lees than that, so these ones with a good seat, good depth, and a good crimp, I'm sitting at 1.09, 1.08 on each of them. And I won't go through and caliper every single round I do, but I do like to check the first ones. And in this case, I had belled these cases, opened the case mouth on these cases to fit those 115 grains. So the leads are a little wider, these tumble lubes, so I wish I had gone a little wider on the case mouth, but thus far I've got no shearing, no case damage. It's not stiff going in there. It just, when you set the bullet on, it doesn't balance perfect. I like to be able to just set it in there and run it up without worrying about the thing tipping on me. But if you could see that crimp, it's a nice crimp on there, nothing too crazy, just a nice solid crimp right at the top of that. I believe that's the top driving band, basically just right in the middle of it. So basically what we're doing, I got some charged cases set aside. See if we can see the powder in there. There you go, you can kind of see it. Already got one in the press, so we will go ahead and sit around on here. And before I throw this in there, something I will mention I found on another YouTube video is with this Lee Liquid A-Lox lube, it is a little tacky. There's a lot of Fortune Cookie 45 LC has a video on how to make it not tacky, but I found another video of a guy that he will take a rag with mineral spirits and he'll just wipe the tip of this off so it doesn't gum up your dye, which I had a lot of that with those Gun Show 115 grains, where I was just getting tons of lube up inside of there from the bullets. So I'd have to get in there and scrub that out of there, and it's not easy. I think they were using a hard lube, but I got it out of there anyway. So in his case, he mentioned cleaning the tip of this round off with a rag with mineral spirits so it's not sticking in your dye or giving you trouble, making a mess. In his case, he actually did the base, and then he would actually wipe off the finished round as well once he was all done to make them look factory, and they did look really good, I will say that. But in my case, I'm just going to leave it on there, just clean the tip so I don't gum it all up. I may go through the extra effort later on. I just want to, these will be the first ones I'm trying since I got the mold, so I want to see how they do before I start getting more in depth with it. So sits right on there. We run it up all the way. There's our round. Let's see. With the light crimp. That shells. Got some schmutz on it, but so that one's looking good. What I will mention as well that I ran into, pay attention when you're sizing the cases and popping primers, because what I ended up doing is, I think what happened is my die got loose and I wasn't running them all the way up, so the base of this case was not getting sized, and I had some rounds that were sticking in the gun, so and were kind of a pain to clear. So what I ended up having to do is, since I don't have a case length gauge, but something Fortune Cookie 45 LC had mentioned, your gun can be the case length gauge. So I actually removed the barrel in this case so I could drop individual rounds into it and then turn them and slide them out. Or if they even stuck a little bit, I wouldn't let them get far enough to stick in there where I had to knock it out with anything. I could just pop it out with my finger. So I went through and found all the ones that I had missed. It must have been a full round where this thing got loose on me, and had to pull them, dump the powder. I always keep one barrel of powder at a time. That's all I go through. So I knew what powder came out of. Those were charged with, so I could put the powder back and then basically redo it, resize, redo the case mouth, recharge, reseat the bullets. Some of those were plated bullets, so because they had already had a crease in them from the crimping, I didn't want to reseat them. So those ones I set aside. I'll cut the plating off and melt them down as range scrap later to be recast with other range scrap. So something to keep in mind. Pay attention, make sure you're locked in all the way around, because if you it's a real pain when you run into that and you got to sit there and sort through everything you got. In some cases, maybe you don't got a lot, not a huge deal. At that time, I had done quite a few. It was didn't have much going on, so I was just reloading rounds, and I knew what I liked for those plated bullets, so I had done quite a few of them. So I really had to go back and do a bunch of redos. But so one thing to note about the Lee tumble lube design, as opposed to the like the lubricizer style design, is when you press the round in, you can feel the case mouth hit these channels. You may not feel that if I had widened the case mouth a little more, but these are the first tumble lube design rounds I've ever loaded, so it's not that it sticks or anything, but you can feel the kind of click as the case mouth runs across each one. Run it up so you can feel that end mark. And that one's got nice crimp to it. Everything's solid. The A-LOX isn't too crazy. I mean, it's no stickier than the lube that's on those other ones. I don't know what they were using on those. It's like a black colored. It worked fine though. I mean, I never had an issue shooting those ones out of the rifle that I'm using. Get a case length gauge. I'm gonna get one. It's just simpler than having to break down an entire rifle and separate the barrel out so that I can drop individual cases in to make sure that everything's the right size. That's the hard way to do it for sure. You know, make sure you're following your length. That's another way to bind one up in there. In a revolver, not a big deal. If it fits in the cylinder, and you can fire it. So the other thing that Fortune Cookie 45 LC had mentioned is with these tumble lubes, they should drop load ready. That was part of the design, is the no need to size. I've seen guys that have sized them. These calipers are just, like I said, Arbor Freight ones. They don't go all the way like I'd hoped for an extra notch here. Thousandths. So, but all of the bullets that I cast and I sized against, the mold says 0.356. They're all 0.35. If it doesn't turn on me. And then he, you know, one of the things he had mentioned is that the barrel of your gun is one of the best resizers there are, but you don't want to be way over. I mean, before I did any of this, I dropped a few good ones and I took them in and I tested them in that rifle to make sure that they, you know, they're snug, they're not hanging way out, they're not falling into the thing. So the measurement that I've got out of these, and I'm going to get a better caliper, I think. I got this one for forging, so it wasn't just the one I have currently. I need to get a better one for doing the cast rounds, but they're going to fire just fine in the rifle that I'm using. So I'll do a couple more of these just to see. And there again, sits on there. It's a little snug. I can't get it quite perfect. Like I said, I wish I'd have resized these case mounts a little more. Run it up, feel it click, come back down. We got a good crimp on that thing. Drop it in the box. And when I'm done with that box, I'm going to load 50 of these at that low charge. And then I'll probably step it up another grain or two or something. I ain't going to run up to anywhere near the max. Always work your loads up. And it can vary from gun to gun too. So I had a friend that asked me if I'd load some of these up for him. And I told him I'd be fine with that as long as we were, going together. And I would, load stuff to bring with me for his gun. I wasn't going to give him rounds, but because every gun can be a little bit different. This my 9mm that I've got, my bullpup style rifle, shot great with those 115 grains. But other guns may not like those. May not be near as accurate. The rifling can affect it. So there's, again, which I always say, there's a lot more information out there than I can give myself. if you just start following videos. The reason I make these videos is hopefully I can give some consistency with other videos, because that's what I tend to do, is when I'm looking something up that I need information on, I will go video to video from different channels and look for information that each guy has different from the other one, or that is consistent across the board, to give me an idea of, you know, what I need to be looking for before I start doing stuff. That was a big thing with casting. There's a lot of different ways to keep your mold lubed, keep your mold hot. Some guy, you know, a lot of different opinions on frosted bullets as opposed to not. You know, some guys call that a fail, other guys will shoot them. It may not be the most accurate round, but if you're just loading for plinking, frosted is by some not considered such a big deal. So I mean, these ones were all unfrosted. At the time I managed to get the mold right. I am a beginning caster, so these will be the first. See, that one didn't quite get as deep as I may have wanted it to, so we're gonna go ahead and hit it with the caliper. And I'm doing this all one-handed, so bear with me. See, that one's measuring, it didn't go quite as deep as the others. 1.10 on that one, which in this case is okay, because if we come to my saved factory, .10. So that's why I save a factory round, so I can measure up against what I'm loading lengthwise. Make sure that it is going to fit. So I just keep that guy over there while I'm doing stuff. So here we are, just about a half box of 50, and I will mark this box when I'm done with a piece of tape and a marker, so I know what I'm using, and then when I go out to the range I can go from there. I'll do another set of 50 just to see, a little higher charge, see what I've got going on. So far these Lee tumble lube style have been convenient. You know, no sizing. If you did want to size them, the sizing dies for the presses are not much. I think they're like $25-30 to get sizing if you feel the need to size. If you do size, it is recommended by other videos I've watched that if you size these ones after lubing them, which as far as what I've gathered is you should lube them before you size them to help them size, run through the sizer, you want to rerun them through the lube again, because you'll rake a lot of that off in the sizing die. So keep that in mind. Other than that, I think that about covers it. I've mentioned I have some other videos. I got a video coming up on the primer tool here, but once I've had a chance and everything's opened up again from this corona nonsense, I'll go out and try some of these out, and I'll let you guys know what I think, what my thoughts are on the tumble lube design. So we'll see you next time. Thanks.